In this video, I want to help you know, understand, and actually start using the most powerful language you possibly could ever use on planet Earth. I'm Dr. Dan, and chances are I help entrepreneurs and experts like yourself create greater income and influence in your marketplace. This video, I'm breaking down this one concept of how to adopt better language. In fact, the most powerful language you could ever implement into your business, into your communication, into your videos, into your presentation. Anytime you are communicating with another human, this single greatest technique and strategy will put you in a league of your own. Here's a question. Have you ever wondered, why is the lion the king of the jungle? It's very clear if you look at Proverbs 30:30. So my worldview is a biblical worldview. I believe God created the heavens and the earth and everything in it. And Proverbs 30:30 says that the lion is the king of the jungle and fears no one. Now, my question is, why the lion? And somebody just asked me this recently. He said, have you ever thought about that? And it caused me to research it. Why is the lion the king of the jungle? He's not the strongest. He's not the smartest. He doesn't have the biggest brain. He doesn't live the longest. So you think about, what are the characteristics of a lion that would deem it as the king of the jungle? So this is where a little bit of a quick deep dive will be so critical to not only knowing why the lion is the king of the jungle, but how you can actually adopt the exact same strategies that the lion uses to become the king of the jungle. There was a researcher in Southern California named Albert Moravian. He said this: language can be broken up. When you communicate, of 100% of your communication, only 7% of your communication comes from your words. 38% of your communication comes from your tone of voice, and 55% comes from your body language. You can imagine where I'm going with this. Start to see why the lion is the king of the jungle. Think about a lion. Now, actually, let me take a step back. Hyenas and lions vie for the same food, so that's why they're always in like a scuffle. If you look on YouTube and see videos, you can watch those for days of lions and hyenas going at it. Or the best ones, like there's one lion gets attacked by hyenas and then his buddy comes over and it's like, boom, game over. I've been down a trail watching those a few times. But think about that. Think about a movement of a hyena, right? Think about that. They're very jittery and you know, and even an elephant, right? They got these big ears and they've kind of got this big movements. It's a big animal. But think about the difference in movements and posture of a lion compared to hyena, or compared to an elephant, or compared to anybody else. A lion will sit and just observe. Every movement has a purpose. There's no waste. It's bold. It's to the point. Blinking when necessary. Not heightened, not fidgety, not shaking. Think about this when it comes to, if we know that 55% of your communication is coming from your body language, what are you saying when people see you? When you walk into a room, or when people walk into your room, they're subconsciously reading your communication. They are getting communicated by you to them and to their brain. Some of it's conscious, many of it's subconscious, meaning it's under the recognition of how they're judging you or how they're determining if they're gonna follow you. And it turns out your body language is one of the biggest things that is determining whether or not somebody trusts you before you ever even open your mouth. I was once training with a body language expert to get better at my communication and my presentation and my ability to influence with my body language. And he told me a story about an African tribe. There was this group of African males who were constantly around predatory animals, animals that could have and very likely would eat other humans that weren't like them. And he talked about the difference that these humans that made them survive and actually be the alpha amongst these very alpha predatory animals. And he went on to say the only time these humans would get eaten by the animals, the lions and the bears and the tigers, the only time they would get eaten by them is when they would get inebriated, when they would have too much to drink, because they lost their proprioception. They lost their ability for their brain to have this stature, this posture, these movements, these body language. And immediately when that happened, these animals could sense it. And that made them less alpha. And when the humans were less alpha from their movements and their body language and their posture, bam, they get eaten. It's the only time these tribes suffer fatalities is when they had too much to drink, they become drunk, and they couldn't control their body language. And so I want you to think about that. When you walk into a room, when you're presenting, when you're one-on-one, when you're trying to sell, when you're trying to convert, when you're trying to influence in your spheres, and when you're trying to build your audience, when you're trying to go bigger, the question is, do people value you? Do they trust you because of how you carry yourself? If you literally could never say a word, could you walk into a room with the status, with the poise, with the stature that would say, I'm here, I can help, I'm gonna serve you, and everything's gonna be okay? Leaders lead, not with just their words, with their discipline. And this goes back to every aspect of life, right? That you have to have congruencies. Are you fulfilling on the promises that you're making to yourself? Are you doing the things that you're telling others to do? Are you being a leader amongst leaders? This stuff actually shows itself in your body language. And so I want to help you navigate this. And I work with this. I love this stuff because I also love to look for shortcuts. Instead of nickel and diamond, you do this and move your hands this. So here's the deal. There was research on TED Talks, the most popular TED Talks out there. And they broke them down and they wanted to find out what separated the good from the great. Those that had amazing views wasn't just from the words or the content delivered, it was from the person delivering the content. And here's what's fascinating. 3 things as it relates to the best TED Talks. Number 1 is the best TED Talks, the people that delivered the best, most popular TED Talks, moved their hands more than anybody else. So over 475 times in an 18-minute talk, they were moving their hands. Why? Because they were passionate. Not just because they decided to move their hands, but their hands actually was like a lion, very bold movements, not wasting any of them, but actually passionately delivering this message with their body. Second thing is they had more vocal variety. The tone of their voice went up and it went down. And it allowed that human brain to recognize they're not just a robot, they're not monotone, they had vocal variety. This is 38% of communication comes from your tone. And the best TED Talks displayed that. And the third thing was they smiled more. And their facial features were attractive. It wasn't were they physically attractive as a man or a woman, it's their facial features were welcoming, were inviting, and were attracting. These are all things that you can do. So your body language is influencing a lot more than I think that you've probably ever been led to believe. So I want to give you 5 quick things to pay attention to increase your influence through your body language. Number 1 is clearly your posture. You know, I'm a chiropractor, I come from that world. I understand the hormones and the power and this feeling of belief about yourself and confidence comes from posture. Second thing is smile more. Add a nod in there if you can, smile and nod. Make sure your facial features are welcoming, they're inviting, they are positive, they're optimistic. People want to follow you because they're inspired by you. Third thing is, we call this the 50-70 rule, that when you're speaking to somebody, make eye contact 50% of the time. But when you're listening to somebody speak to you, make eye contact 70% of the time. The 50-70 rule. When you're speaking to somebody, 50% of the time, your eyes should be looking at them. Another side note, when you're presenting, pick somebody out in the audience at different parts of the room so you're making and scanning the room, but you're making eye contact. Don't try to make contact with everybody. Pick people from different sections of the room and literally focus on that one target and then go to the next target. Eye contact is important. Fourth thing is make bold, strong movements. Do not waste a movement. Don't be fidgety, don't be shaky, don't be all over the place. Think lion. What would a lion look like if they were on a stage or if they were in front of a human? Make that type of movement. And the last thing, and this kind of goes with the territory of posture and making bold movements, is take up space. Be okay with taking up space. See, when we're nervous, we shrink down. We want our body to shrink down, our shoulders slump over, and we just want to kind of go into our corner and we don't take up much space. That tells the subconscious brain that I'm not sure. I'm not confident. I don't believe in my thing. But when you believe in your thing, you're willing to take up space. Be okay with taking up space. Be wide, be big, right? Shoulders back, head back, and go deliver on the promise.
Remember one thing, when you pose, a lot of little guys have one habit, and they hide away when they pose. When they do an arm pose, they do like this. Okay, and the big guy will come right out with his arm. So never do that, never hide away.
And just remember, you may be looking for a significant other. It may be a prospect, maybe a client, maybe an investor, maybe a partner, that everywhere you go, people are monitoring, judging, and receiving you, whether it's intentional or they're aware of it or not. Most of it goes under the radar. It's in this subconscious part of the brain. But I just want to make sure that you know this body language is emanating. You have a field around you. be big, play big. What's the worst that could happen? Somebody reject you, somebody say no? That's what I always have to think about. Like, what is the worst that could happen here? I'm gonna go and play big. Because to me, the worst that could happen is I don't show up the way I know I feel about myself, and then they don't get the original me. They don't get the true, real me. And so if I do, I'm not worried about what they're thinking about. I'm making eye contact because I know what I have and I know how can I serve them. I focus on serving them, and then I show up in a way that's powerful, and my body language represents that. So there it is. It's the most powerful language in today, and the king of the jungle has been displaying that for a long time, so we can take notes. That says the lion is that king of the jungle because he fears nobody. So I'll leave it at that. Don't fear anybody. Go get your message out there, and more importantly, get your unique voice out there. If you need help with it, click the link below. Let's do a discovery call. I know I can help you. Dr. Dan, I'm out.